Okay, here we go. I'm excited to be here again with you guys today. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Sylvester Inspires Belief Cast. Thank you once again for joining us. And I also want to thank all of you for all your support. It's been wonderful. And I need to thank our sponsor, Veracity Networks. Thank you for believing in me and helping get this message out to many, many people, thousands and thousands. It's crazy where this has gone now. And it's because of the amazing guests that we have on. And today's going to be no different. I have Ganel-Lyn Condie. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Todd.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I've been wanting to have you on for a long, long time.
Well, I'm so glad
grateful.
it happened.
Yes. Finally.
I feel like our pre-show needed to be taped.
I know we should.
I didn't use up all the good stuff.
She didn't. No, I promise. We're actually gonna. We'll circle back.
Okay,
we'll get a
let's
lot of
do
that.
it.
So a little background on Ganel-Lyn. She's a popular motivational speaker. She's known for inspiring others with her unique honesty, authenticity, and spirit. And again, you guys, when you listen to her, she really is. She just says it like it is, and I think that's why people really love and gravitate towards you, because you just speak with just being real.
Thank you.
And I love that about you, and I want to thank you for that. She's dedicated to her family, her faith, and inspiring others. She loves teaching others with speaking and writing. She's written many, many books. She does a podcast. Like I said, she's a motivational speaker. She's out there really being a light to the world. After a heartbreaking suicide of her 40-year-old sister, she's now constantly working towards prevention and things like that in that area, and we'll talk more about that. She lives with an open heart, feels passionate about sharing principles that will empower others to live life with more joy. And I really want to touch a lot on that today. And again, you're a regular television and radio guest. You're on Good Things Utah all the time. Anyway, the list goes on and on.
Thank you.
So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us.
It's a joy to be here. It's a joy to talk with you and to be inspired by your story. And if I can help in any of these kinds of conversations, I'm willing to have them. Yeah, because I think just having them, helps people.
Absolutely.
I keep thinking, after I've done about 1,200 speaking events and TV and radio, I host 3 different shows, that I've already told the story so many times, everybody's heard. And every time I feel like I learned something by telling it. Yeah. And I hear from someone that's like, I've heard you say, I've listened to it, and then you said this. And so I think once in a while, I still meet people that are like, nah, therapy, I don't know if I can admit to that, or I don't know if I can ask for help. Right. So we just need to keep talking. We just need to keep talking and keep talking. Yeah. I need to hear it 27 times sometimes. Absolutely. And so if I can offer the conversation again up, I will do it.
No, thank you. And I love that you said that. That's the way we connect. And we say this in our industry here, is connection is the opposite of addiction. And so when we're connected with someone, and that's why I love that you're here, for people to connect with your story today, because you're gonna inspire and help a lot of people who really need to hear this message today.
Well, and I would just add, the time of this taping is still in the middle of COVID. I don't know when listeners are going to hear it. They may hear
They'll hear it soon.
Yeah.
Very soon.
But if they catch it a year from now, and we're in a different space, it's been a really heartbreaking few months just from a mental health standpoint and the work that both of us are doing. Yeah. And I know you're hearing from a lot of people that, like you just said, connection is the opposite of addiction. So the addiction rates, the suicide calls are up 1,000% to the suicide hotlines. And that's really concerning. And what I think it really goes back to is the ways in which we were connecting stopped.
That's a good point.
They stopped. And so these podcasts, I think, are even more crucial than they were pre-March. Yeah. Because this is oftentimes, I'm hearing from people now on a new level, because they're at home, they're socially distancing, and they're listening and consuming more content online for good and for bad, right? Right. So depending on what your addiction of choice is, I think this is more than ever important that we have this kind of platform. And there's good and bad with it, right? Like, YouTube, I have a YouTube channel, so I get the good and the bad. I have Instagram and Twitter, and all these platforms are allowing connection during a pandemic, and we've got to find new ways to pivot around that, because it's costing lives. Yeah. And addiction levels, I think, even for me, I'm going to just be honest with you, Todd, like all the therapy I've done, all the work I've done, all my issues, like the day the pandemic showed up, I felt like they showed up on the front porch and they were like pounding on the door, and they're like, hey, we heard that your daughter's going to be home from school. your college baby adult son is going to work from the basement room during the day, and your husband, he's not sure what's going on with his job. So we thought we would show back up too. All my issues, Todd, all my issues. Right. I was like, I did not invite you back.
Yeah.
But they did, and even friends of mine that are dear, close friends that have lots of degrees in mental health work.
Sure.
Are back in therapy and dealing with their stuff and struggling. And so I guess I would just say to your listeners, first and foremost, if you're feeling pushed to the brink, welcome to the club.
Yeah.
Because we all are. We're all having to reassess.
Sure.
All those ways in which we distracted and numbed, really, that were socially acceptable and maybe not even in the addiction realm, but going to the movies, watching sports, whatever those things were, the distance we had because we were busy. My speaking schedule completely came to a halt, but then transferred to Zoom, right? And so I sit at my desk and speak to audiences now, which is not the same feedback. I don't get the same high from it.
Yeah, it's
different. Know? I'm not
really
seeing the faces and feeling the feedback and the connection. Plus, I'm also not getting in the car, going to the airport, staying in a hotel, which is a break from my fam.
Which is kind of nice.
Yes.
Both ways.
Both ways, right? Like I just spoke to Belgium the other day and it was nice. I had no jet lag. But the minute the event was over, my family's in the kitchen wrestling with popcorn and I'm like, you know what? There's no division in my life. And so I have found my stuff, my issues right back in my face. So I think this is just crucial. I think podcasting and conversations around the issues we're going to talk about today are super critical right now.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And very well said, and we're going to get into all that, but I want people, a lot of people know you're very well known because you've done so many things and you're really, like I said, a light to all of us. But I want to get people to know a little bit background of you. Just tell us a little bit about where you grew up and a little bit about your family life.
So I grew up in California, Northern California area. So up until junior high, I was in the Sacramento area. And then my mom, who had remarried, so that's part of the story too, we moved north of that to an area of Marysville, Yuba City. It's south of Chico, if you're familiar with north of Sacramento.
Okay.
And my parents were divorced at a time within my church. There weren't a lot of divorced families. I guess that's the unique thing that I would say that played into my belief system a little bit and kind of challenged what I thought. We didn't have the quote unquote on Sunday ideal family situation. And it unfortunately is now not unique, right? But at the time, it was very unique to be in a single mom situation. My mom was working and my sister and I were 18 months apart.
Okay.
And we're the only full sibling. And so this is my sister that died by suicide.
Okay.
So all of my siblings, I'm the oldest of 10, but we're all halves except Meg and I. Okay. And so I share a parent with all my siblings and I don't ever distinguish that they're my half. But I think there's something significant about what Meg and I experienced. And it really does play into who I am and what I wrestle and struggle with a little bit is that those early years of watching my mother who deals with mental health issues. She knows I talk and I've written about and she's really comfortable. She's super proud of me and she's worked really hard to address her issues, but she still struggles. And I think that's important because I grew up in a home where there was definitely a sense from a very young age of some vulnerability and fear. And that was around some mental health stuff. And I very much saw myself at a very young age, not only as Meg's sister, but I was her mama. And I saw myself as almost my mom's mama too. Really? Because I saw that she was battling being a single mom and taking care of 2 kids and some of her struggles. She remarried a wonderful guy. I have a stepdad that I love and they soon had a baby of their own that died when I was 10. So my sister Bonnie is buried next to my sister Meg. And so Bonnie died near the age of 2, and that played into some heightened grief and awareness of the vulnerability of life.
How old were you when Bonnie passed?
I was 10. And so I was very aware of.
You knew what was going on.
Yeah. And I could I could have a whole podcast just about that whole grieving process. But I soon, around the age of 7, I write about this in my book, You Are More Than Enough, You Are Magnificent, where I had a very big sense of the world, the universe, and maybe my part in it and what I came to earth to share. I think people talk about where they had a vision of what they wanted to be or their passion in life, or and I remember walking home from school, and I could tell my mom struggled with some things, and I very much had internalized it, that it was about me, that if I could be perfect, then I could solve the pain I was seeing.
Yeah.
And I had this really skewed sense of where I feel like in my faith I call him God, but I love my agnostic and my atheist readers and friends.
Sure.
And they buy my books, and they know I'm very faith focused, but they trust that I'm going to be honest about my lens.
Exactly.
And so I really love interfaith work for that reason.
Love that.
But I had a skewed perspective of, I felt like God had shown me what I came to earth a little bit to do, and I interpreted that to mean at the age of 7, I could save the people I love if I was perfect, then I could fix. And I say that because I think as children we really do internalize what we see as chaos around us and the vulnerability in a way that means something as a child that doesn't really mean that as an adult, but you spend the rest of your adult life trying to undo that meaning. And so I very much believed that my role in the family as the oldest child was to care for and be perfect, and that if I could do that, it would stop the pain I saw happening.
Yeah. It's a lot of pressure.
It was. And I really set out then to be I think break patterns that I was seeing happen.
Right.
And no disrespect, my mother did her best too.
For sure, yeah.
She has her whole story of where she's one of my heroes because she's one of the most giving people I know, but dealt with bipolar, and that played out in really significant, really intense ways in our home at times. And I know that we all do the best we can with what we have at the time, and then we get better. And one of the things I'll say about my mom is she's always been really honest and willing to own her stuff. And I think that allows healing to happen in a family.
For sure.
She's not in denial.
Right.
And so as I grew up, I definitely felt like, okay, what's the best thing I could do for my family? My siblings, the families were growing. My dad had remarried, and he had his 5 kids with my stepmom. Yeah. And then my mom and stepdad continued to have a family. And so I was the oldest of all these siblings. Wow, yeah. And I thought, okay, education, maybe and I had an amazing teacher in the 4th grade, Miss Krause. And when you ask about heroes, she's up there with. She really saw in me, in a way, she was the toughest, meanest teacher in the school. She gave the most homework, and she's since passed. But before she passed, I sent her one of my books, and I found her. I tracked her down.
Really?
And I wrote her a letter, and I just said, I wouldn't be here because what was happening at home. I would go to school, and it was like, whoa, there's this whole world. And she was so tough because she thought I was smart. And so she didn't let me
so she
skate.
Pushed you.
Yeah. And from that point, I decided I wanted to be a teacher because I saw that in the classroom, you could take kids from all these worlds and whatever was happening at home, you could open a book and you could say to them, wait, I think you're smart. And they're going to rise. And she did. She treated us all. Like I joke, the other teacher in the grade was Mr. Flores, and he had the guitar. I had him for the next grade. And no offense to Mr. Flores if he listens to this, but I don't remember learning anything that year. We sang a lot of folk songs.
Sang a lot of songs.
Right?
Yeah.
Didn't do a lot of homework, And I cried a lot because the homework was tough. And once again, I thought, Todd, if I was perfect. So I didn't allow a lot of wiggle room. I had to get the best grades. But there was something inside of me that saw that there was more than that was just happening around me. And that was such a gift.
Wow.
And so I went on to college, and I was kind of the first to do that, you know. And I had big plans and big things. Honestly, people say, and I write about it. And I think the book, The Decision That Changed My Life, I wanted to be on the Today Show or Oprah, one of those two. And all the other kids when I was little would come home and watch cartoons, and I would try to find any news show at the time. And then awesome. It was Phil Donahue, if you remember Phil Donahue.
That'll date me, but yes, I remember Donahue.
Because I'm almost 50, so if that tells everybody. And Sally Jesse Raphael, and then Oprah showed up, right? Yeah. But these were the people having the awkward conversations.
Exactly.
And I knew that was my gift.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
I was like, wait, you mean you're going to put people on a stage and you're going to ask them to talk about the thing that is scary?
Yeah.
And when you do that, people are going to connect. We didn't have Brene Brown, so we didn't know it was vulnerability and connection and shame.
Sure.
We didn't have words for that, but I could see that. Damn. And I could also see there was a solution for my own trauma there on the screen. So I didn't care about cartoons and whatever. That's what I wanted to watch. And that's what I wanted to do.
Really?
I wanted to be somehow a teacher that I told you before we started, I got a minor in psychology. And I realized I couldn't be a therapist because I believed in therapy. And I saw that my mom, who believed in therapy and went to therapy, and how that had saved a lot of the trauma in our family, was a gift. But I also realized I would talk my clients to death if I was a therapist. I'd be paying them
You don't talk very much.
They come over to see me as a therapist. I'd be handing them money back saying, no, I think I talked the whole time. So that's somewhat how I became aware that I needed to find a different. So I was a broadcast journalism major for a while, but the TV station I was doing an internship, that didn't feel very connecting. It felt very like kind of a little dog eat dog. And I think you and I have both have relationships with people in the media, and it's an intense. Yeah. And this is, remember, pre-cell phone. No one was producing a show with their cell phone.
Exactly.
No one was podcasting at home. This was old school. I was putting wires in the switchboard thing, and you would do long hours, and it was kind of a backstabbing. I could feel that, and that wasn't going to be good for me.
Yeah.
So I settled on education, but I really did want to sit down and have the conversations, the awkward conversations. I mean, Phil Donahue was doing shows about LGBT stuff when no one was talking about that.
Yeah, and it was like,
right?
How dare he?
Yeah.
Right?
And Oprah was talking about race way before 2020, right?
Yeah.
And there were divorce and depression and anxiety and suicide and transgender issues and all the things, all the addiction stories, right? Nobody was talking. And so I really saw that somewhere I could see healing there, even though it only went so far.
Right.
And that's what I wanted to be. And so I got a teaching degree, and I met my husband. He was my friend. Okay. And I always tell college kids that ask me about marriage, if you can marry your best friend, there's some job security in that.
Right.
Because you can fall in love with lots of people, and Hollywood shows you these like rocket ships, and it's not really what it's about. I mean, my husband's gone through infertility and chemotherapy, and I'm bald, and I'm on medicine for lupus that makes me have a moon face, and that's not glamorous.
No.
That's not romantic candlelight dinner. Right. No. And you know what Hollywood, no offense to Hollywood, but Hollywood really teaches, like, if you're not fulfilling all my needs, then I'm out of here.
I'm out. Yep.
And that's not what marriage is.
It's not.
For me, anyways.
Well, when you say that, one of the most powerful quotes on what love actually is came from Dave DeRocher from the Other Side Academy. He says love equals sacrifice.
It does.
And I'm like, how perfect, because that's really what it is.
Yeah. And you know what? My husband, he was my friend, and that friendship, I think, has been the foundation. Our faith and our friendship has kept us committed.
Sure.
Because it's not, Gail Miller, if you're listening to this and you live in Utah and you know the jazz, you know Gail Miller. And I used to be a magazine editor here locally years ago. And we gave an award to Mary Kay Huntsman and Gail Miller and Dee Wright, who's Doug Wright's wife, and a couple of other Bronco Mendenhall's wife, BYU coach, right, who's not anymore. And we were giving awards to women that were the women behind the men.
Right.
And Gail Miller, we had this big luncheon at the governor's mansion, and she stood up and gave the greatest acceptance speech. And she said, people ask about how Larry and I have stayed married all these years. And I tell them, I've liked him and loved him one day more than I wanted to divorce him. Isn't that the greatest answer, Todd?
That is awesome. That's perfect.
And it's like, we've got to give permission for the messiness. I mean, I tell college kids, when I speak to college kids, that the hardest stuff is the best stuff.
Yeah.
That's marriage and parenting and you know, in our faith, serving missions for your church and serving in the military, right? This isn't the glamour stuff,
It's
right?
not.
This is the hard stuff. And so I would just say, marrying your friend, your best friend, that's really kept us, because we're about to celebrate our 30th.
Oh, congratulations.
We're in our 29th year.
Congrats.
And,
that's awesome.
And there have been seasons, right, where, I mean, I wish someone had taught me that marriage relationships go through seasons.
Yeah.
And sometimes we go through a season every season in a day or in a week.
Yeah.
And we stick through those seasons, right?
Through them,
Yeah. And so I
very
know
well said.
I know that for me, that's been a really, and he's different. He's an accountant. He's very different than I am in many ways, right?
Yeah.
We don't share everything in common.
Right.
You know, he doesn't want to sit on a podcast and talk about every bit of all the secrets, but he's learned that there's saving grace in that. And we've learned some things together. And I brought my family of origin, and he brought his family of origin, and we've tried to create in the middle this other thing, right?
That's awesome. Yeah.
I came from a family where if you weren't yelling about something, then there was something wrong. And he came from a family, if you were talking about anything other than whatever that was on the surface and happy and birds and flowers, then something was wrong.
Something's wrong,
we've tried to create this middle, you know.
That's
so awesome. And we've messed up. You know, we've messed up. We have 2 wonderful kids that I fought really hard to have. When the doctor said you won't have any, it took 7 years to have my son and 6 to have my daughter. And they love each other. And people always said, oh my gosh, you have 6 years apart. What are you going to do? And I say, well, that's when God gave them to me. So that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, we'll just do it.
We're going to just do this, right? And I told my son especially, we started a jar for your therapy the minute you were born. Because, by the way, 7 years of infertility just messes up a kid right there. You would have thought the second coming of Jesus had happened when he was finally born, you know, and I had read way too many books, you know, and like I told you, I was going to be the perfect whatever. I was going to undo whatever trauma. Yeah. And I haven't always done and known what to do. You know, he is brilliant and deals with his own stuff. And I remember many days falling to my knees in my closet saying, God, you gave me this kid and I don't know. I just don't know. And that really led to writing my very first book, because we went through what I call the angry years, 13 to 15. Yeah. Parents of 13 to 15-year-old, especially boys, when the hormones hit and the brain is changing and, you know, and they don't want to talk to mom and dad. You know, my daughter is 16 and she and I won't have a better second language, but I didn't always know. Right. I remember thinking, wait a minute, you know, it wasn't until he was kind of through that I talked to one other mom, and she said she had gone through the same thing. And I said, well, where were you? Right. Where were you? Yeah. I just needed to talk to one other parent. Yeah. But, you know, you're trying to keep your kids' privacy. And I write about it in my forgiveness book. That's really what was the genesis behind my first book, is that I wanted a book that had stories of that private stuff. Yeah. That stuff that you need just one friend to say, I validate you. Yeah. I've been through that addiction. I've been through that whatever, that depression, that divorce, that eating disorder, that whatever. I didn't like my kid either. Yeah. I loved him, but I didn't like him. Yeah. And I didn't have that book to pick up, and so that's where that came from. That's where that came from.
Well, it's like you said, it's like these hard and difficult times end up being the best thing that ever happened, because that book never would have been possible had you not been going through these things.
And that's why I honor the childhood I came from. Sure. You know, they were the great teachers of my life, and my parents did the best they could. And then you look to my grandparents and their story and you go, oh, well, that explains some of that.
Yeah, you start to understand.
Yeah. And then you go back to their parents and go, gosh, they did change some things. And so
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to meeting my grandchildren someday, because I'm hoping my kids have done and will do better than Dad and I did. And you know, I would just say that really plays into what I do now, in that I'm willing to sit down and have a conversation about the awkward thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't scare me. It actually excites me. What scares me more, and this probably comes from some of my trauma as a kid, is when I walk into a room and there's that feeling of that thing that no one's talking about.
Yeah.
That's the scariest room for me to walk in.
Oh, interesting.
And that's because I got really good as a kid reading the room, and reading, is today the day? Is this going to happen, or is this going to happen?
Yeah,
is someone I love going to hit me, or is someone I love going to try to take their life? And that's really what I was playing with. And so I got really good at that. So I get way more uncomfortable in a room of small talk.
Yeah.
I get way more uncomfortable in a room where everyone's not talking about what's really going on.
And I think that's why, you know, when you do speak, you're very real and authentic. You come across with authority, and you're very assertive. And I think that, I mean, now we know why.
Yeah.
You know, it's great to hear this backstory, because that makes a lot more sense of why you are so like, hey, let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and my sister Meg died 6.5 years ago by suicide.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. Yeah.
And so because of that, I had already written the first book. It hadn't been published yet. And that to me is why. I had submitted it twice, and it had been rejected by 2 publishers, and she hadn't died yet. It was submitted to my current publisher, and she died during the time they were you know, addressing whether they were going to publish it or not. And when they came to me, she had died 6 weeks before, and they said, we want to publish this. And I said, well, we've got to rewrite a part, because there was a key story that hadn't happened, and for me that's God and his timing. So I say to your listeners that have it on their heart that they want a podcast, they want a blog. I get those letters 20 times a week.
Sure.
I want to be a speaker, I want to write a book. I say, are you hearing God in your life wherever you're at? And maybe for you define God as a higher power. Maybe you're atheist and you don't even know what's bigger than you. But I always say, for me, I've got to have something bigger for me. For me, it's God. Yeah. And I always say his timing is perfect. And so is he talking to you while you're working at the car wash? Can you hear him at the car wash? Because I look back and see that he put on my heart to write the book before Meg died, because he knew like the whole ship had to be built. And then beforehand.
Right, exactly.
And then we rewrote that part, and that chapter of that first book, I Can Do Hard Things with God, has opened the door with atheists and agnostics and other religions. Even though my faith is boldly on the cover, everyone knows what my lens is. People of all faiths that have lost someone from suicide 20 years before are still not healed from that. And I would say what really was crucial for me is that I knew that there's a key story for all of us that isn't probably being talked about. And after that book and all the speaking that's come, I've met thousands of, probably millions at this point if I did the math. Right. Todd, no one I've talked to, not one person I've talked to either doesn't struggle themselves with depression and anxiety, love someone that does, or like our family lost someone to suicide. That's literally everyone on the planet. Right, yeah. So when we think it's kind of an us and them, like there's all these people over there dealing with addiction, or all these people over there dealing with anxiety, depression, it's kind of all of us. Wow. It's all of us, right?
Yeah, it sure is.
So if we're not having the conversation, then, you know, it's usually the person in the back corner when I'm speaking at an event that won't ever look up, they're the ones I'm really talking to. Yep. And if I can see the whites of their eyes and then some emotion by the end, then I'm like, hey, I showed up for all the other 900 for no reason. Yeah. It was for that one, that the wall, right, to give permission as a speaker, as an author, as a podcaster, right? Sure, yeah. If we're giving words to that, that's who I'm usually going for, which is why COVID has been weird, because I'm speaking from my desk a lot of the time and I can't see that.
Yeah. Wow. That's so well said. And I can feel your passion around all that. You know, I think what I've noticed too is with COVID and everything is, and we were talking about this earlier, how there's less connection and this and that. And I think you even said that the suicide rates are up, skyrocketing and stuff. Do you see that plays a part in, just the way people react with you when you come and speak? I mean, do you feel like they're even more like, I needed this message more now than ever? Or, I mean, do you notice a difference because of COVID in that message, even though it's Zoom a lot of times?
Yeah, I think what I'm seeing is that definitely my online content is being consumed at a different level right now.
Sure, yeah.
And so because of that, I'm getting messages at different levels about things that I think people are ready to talk to. But I would say at this point, if we were to take a snapshot on what's happening on a social or a societal level, is we haven't even seen yet what is happening now. I think we're still somewhat in the incubator of some of the trauma that's happening. And I'm wondering what we're going to be dealing with a year from now. We're going to be having a conversation a year from now, and I'll come back on and talk with you anytime you want about what have we seen in our rear view mirror that needs to be addressed. But I will say this regarding audiences. Okay. You and I both share a love for the prison.
Yes.
And that sounds like a funny thing to be saying. But people say, where do you love to speak the most? And I would say, I love to go in the high schools. Sure. And I love churches because I can talk faith 90 hours.
All time.
Yeah. And I love talking about faith. And I like to talk about faith in a really real way. I think there's a lot of faith commentators out there, but specifically in my faith identity, sometimes we stay on the what, and we don't go to the how, and we miss a step in there about the why, and we think God and the Bible is filled with all these perfect families. And so I love to talk about faith in a way of like, no, everyone's dysfunctional, and this is where I see faith fitting in.
Yeah, I like
but
that.
The reason I love going to the prisons is, man, that audience, their hearts, there's no wall. No one is forcing them out of their cell to come hear you speak. If you're at the prison and they came into the auditorium, they already chose in.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And they've already had their life stripped down.
Yeah.
And they're sensitive. But going back to one of the first times I spoke in the prisons, it was the women's prison here in Utah. And I did my whole thing for an hour, and I'm seeing the reaction, right? Like I'm seeing the crying, and I'm seeing the response. And there's one inmate, and she's like won't even look up, and in my mind she was just angry.
Yeah.
The wall never came down. And honestly, Todd, I finished, I was like, okay, well, that didn't work for her. I didn't work for her. And I've had to come to a place where, listen, trolls have taught me some hard lessons about who I work for and why I do it, because I am not everybody's cup of tea.
Right.
And there's people out there that their full-time job is to let me know how I'm a loser, and why do I have this show, and why am I on this channel?
Yeah, who are you?
Yeah. Who am I? And they keep me going back to my why and who I work for, which is God. And so thank you for that to all the trolls out there. But I really sat there for a minute and thought, gosh, God, I don't think I ever helped her. And all the inmates were saying their thank yous and their goodbyes and going back, and she's hanging out. And I'm thinking, okay, well, there's a guard over there. So
make sure I'm next to the guard.
Yeah. And she came up to me, she says, I've been here before. And I said, okay. And she said, yeah. And I got out, and I decided I was going to kill myself. And so I knew, though, that I better find out who God is first before I die. So I did something so I'd go back to prison, because I figured I could find God faster in prison.
Wow.
And she says, so my plan was to get back in prison, which I did, and to find God, which I have. And then when I got out this time, I can't even talk about it, but she said, I was gonna kill myself. And then you messed that up today. And I said, what?
Wow.
Now she's not smiling,
Sure.
and she's not even
Sure.
crying. So I'm not getting what she's trying to tell me for a
Right.
second. There's
Sure.
a delay.
Yeah.
She says, you messed up that plan. And I said, okay, because I told my sister's story. She says, you told me today that the world's not going to be better without me. I said, it's true, we're not. And she said, and you told me that because I found God, I get to now tell somebody else about him. So I have to stay, don't I? I said, yeah.
Wow.
We need you to stay. Because you've fallen in the pit and you know how to get out.
Yeah.
And we need you to stick around for that story.
Yeah.
She said, okay. And she was up for parole. And she was applying for the Other Side Academy. And I've never found out if she
got in or not.
If she got in or not. But, and I don't know the rest of her story because we don't get to stay in contact with inmates. But
sure.
I think about her often when I tell, she's my why.
She's
If there's one out there today that's listening to this podcast and they're contemplating self-harm in any way, or they've decided I've relapsed how many times, forget about it. I've burned every bridge. My family and friends don't trust me because once again, I'm using, or, here I am again in this shame storm because of whatever, my drug use, and I'm nobody's gift anymore. I would just say if there's one person that can hear this story, listen, there's not one day in 6.5 years my life is better without Meg.
Right.
She had eating disorders. She had addiction. She had a learning disability. She'd been sexually abused. I knew the demons she fought. And so when people say, well, why did she die by suicide? I say, well, that's the $1 billion question, because if I had that answer.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Sure.
But what I would boil it down to, if I have to give a 30-second commercial, is that she started to believe the lie, which is that we would be better without her.
Wow.
And there's not one day of my life. And I think I knew her probably close to better than anyone else. I'd been there for the good, the bad, the ugly. We had a whole lifetime. We were 18 months apart. Right?
Yeah.
We'd gone through my mom and dad's divorce. We were there on the weekend visits with dad. We were there when my sister Bonnie died. We were there for my mom's mental health struggles. And she believed in me. She was my biggest fan.
Yeah.
She could play a mean game of basketball. I can't dribble a ball to save my life, Todd, and you can. I know this about you.
Yeah.
Right? And when she was your friend, she was your friend for life.
Yeah.
She was loyal, but I knew her demons.
Yeah.
And so at the very end, I know that she had started to believe that lie. There's some amazing research about the number of people that survived jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. Maybe you know this statistic.
Refresh our memories.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember this, but I don't know the details.
I always tell people, don't try it, because there's not a big group that survive it. So please don't try it. That disclaimer, don't try this at home. Don't try jumping off a Golden Gate Bridge or any bridge, because not a lot of people survive. But of the number that do survive, the percentage of those survivors, 90% of them report a level of joy and happiness they never thought possible the minute they jumped. Because really what suicide is about is pain management.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
I just want the pain to go away.
I just want the pain to go away. That's it. That's all that is about. And so what these people who have survived that jump report later is that they didn't know the happiness that was still coming. They just, on the other side of the jump, saw the pain. Right? Yeah, we've all been there, right?
Sure.
And maybe you don't consider yourself suicidal, or that you struggle with addiction, or that you have those ideations, or that you've attempted. But I don't know a person on the planet that hasn't gotten to the place of dark. And I've gotten to that place. The grief after Meg, man, I have sat in those places many times thinking, yeah, all the books, all the speaking, all the podcasts, I don't think I've been much of a success. I wrote a book called You Are More Than Enough, You Are Magnificent. I still have to buy into that.
Yeah.
I still have to fight the demon of perfectionism, because in my head, really, let's be real, I believed at the age of 7 that if I could be perfect, I could save the people I love. So the day my brother found Meg, that's my hell. That's my hell right there.
Yeah.
Because what I feared happened. And once that door opens in a family or in a school or in a community, suicide opens a trap door for a lot of people.
It does.
It makes it seem as an option.
Yeah.
And so what I like to say to people is, we'll never be better without you. Like that friend I met in the prison that day. She had found God and she knew about him now. And now she had something that she could share. And we needed her whole story. We needed all the 2 times in prison, not the perfect checkbox story. We needed all the mess. You know, there's a really famous broken rake hanging on my wall. You may know about it because I've talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
My husband just bought a new subwoofer and put it in front of part of that broken rake. And I said, dude, you know the world will not let you block the broken rake. And he goes, I know. We got to move it because the rake. So if you don't know the story, is right after my sister died, my husband was out working in the yard and broke a rake and threw it in the garbage, and I pulled it out. We had lost everything. We had gone through a pretty significant second job loss, and we had no furniture in the house, and it was a mess. And so I had hung this rake on the wall in the basement, and it took like 2 weeks for my family to notice it, which was kind of weird because there was no like furniture there, but they finally noticed. And they said, hey, Mom, what's up with the farm tool like hanging on our wall? And I said, let's have a family meeting about that. And I said, let's look at this tool. Dad can't take it back to the store because it's not perfect. Home Depot can't sell it. But really, it could still be useful. And I find it beautiful and unique looking.
Yeah.
It's still useful, and the handle's broken. And in this family, we've got to get better at about doing broken parts.
Wow.
Because all of us have got them. You know, the Japanese pottery analogy has kind of been used a lot.
It has, yeah.
Okay, and I love it, and I don't want to take away from it. But there's a flaw to me in that we fix the piece of pottery, right? The gold is there, and it's beautiful, and it's put back together. But Todd, I don't know about you, I still have broken parts in me.
Yeah.
They're still there. They're
For
not
sure.
fixed.
Yeah.
No one took gold and put the handle back on that rake.
Yeah.
Right? But it's still useful.
Yeah.
And so what I think the conversation needs to be about suicide and mental health and addiction is that, to me, the beautiful parts of our stories are those flaws.
Yeah.
They're not the fixed flaws. They're the ones that are still hanging out there. You know, that's the place I try to teach from and write from and do media from. And oftentimes I'm 4 seconds ahead of whatever I'm going to talk about on TV or whatever I'm going to give as an address to a group. Like 4 seconds. I mean, it's not even cooled. The cake's out of the oven and it's still jiggly. You know, I think I've got the lesson, but it's not gelled yet. You know, I try to teach from my scars, not my wounds, because I've got current wounds right now that it's not responsible for me to come on here and talk about them because they're still ongoing.
Yeah.
But most of what I talk about is a part of my broken rake.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want to take away from the fact that there can be healing, because I really believe in that. Yeah. You know, in my faith practice, I really believe in Christ. And that's what I had to come to grips with Meg, is there's one Savior and I'm not him.
Yeah.
And really that 7-year-old me had to come to grips with that. Wow. That I can't save anyone. I can invite, I can influence, I can love, but I can't save.
Yeah.
And man, that's hard as a parent.
Yeah.
That's hard even in the work I do with suicide prevention, when I start hearing from people every day, we lost another one, we lost another one. Sometimes in the exact school I have already spoken in.
You're right. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
In the same church I spoke in the same community center. I know they have my book. They watched my YouTube video, right?
Yeah.
There's still a little voice inside of me that's like, man, if you could just be a little better wife, better mom, better sister, better daughter, better speaker, better author, better YouTube, YouTuber, then maybe people would stop hurting themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that a lot too. I'll be better when.
Yeah.
I'll be better if.
Yeah.
I'll be better when that happens.
Yeah.
You know, and we put ourselves in this place of feeling more suffering because of it.
Yeah. And you know, Meg is with me a lot. In my faith, she's there.
Yeah.
And I say she's my partner.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like she has an awareness now. One of my friends that's also a therapist has taught me a lot about hope, and what she teaches often to her clients is that hope isn't a feeling, it's a plan B. And so I've gotten really big toolboxes filled with lots of tools. And I have friends that I call that are my SOS friends, because when I'm in the dark closet and I can't find the light switch, they know that my SOS text means I've forgotten who I really am, right? But I will also say that if Meg could speak into this mic, she would tell you to stay in your body.
Yeah.
And she, with those people that survived jumping the Golden Gate Bridge, that there's miracles coming. And sometimes, you know, the handles of the rakes don't get fixed in our lifetime.
In our lifetime, yeah.
Right? And I know therapists out there that are on the front lines like you are, right? Where clients show up and say, I've tried everything. I'm ready to give up. Yeah. And one of the things I hear is, well, you haven't tried me, so let's try this program or this plan B.
I like that.
Right? Yeah. Listen to this podcast, share it with someone that's coming to your mind and heart right now, because it's really about pain management.
Yeah.
You know, the 9/11, we're approaching the 9/11 anniversary.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of sad stories from that day, right? And one of the things I try to remember as a visual, and it's been talked about pretty publicly, is that there were individuals jumping from the building when the first building went down.
Right.
Because they knew the plane had already hit and they were headed, and they were trying to control the pain.
Yeah.
You know, so when people ask about suicide, I say, visualize that. That's what's really going on inside of someone.
Yeah.
And so if we can keep putting words on this fear of the broken parts of us, that somehow the measuring stick we put out there in the world is that it's all fixed and there's no pain.
Yeah.
That is the worst story to be telling, because the reality is I wake up every day with vulnerability.
Yeah.
I wake up every day with flawed parts of me. I wake up every day with stories that if I don't check them, they can put me right back into that place where I'm trying to control everybody around me and all the junk inside of me, because the story I'm telling myself is that you would be better without me. I can be there.
Yeah.
And so if you think about it, the audience right now during COVID, I think that our prison inmates have so much to teach us.
I agree.
Our LGBT friends, they have so much to teach us.
So much, yes.
My LGBT friends are my heroes because they sit in a lot of paradoxes.
Yeah.
They sit in faith paradoxes and family paradoxes. My recovering addict friends, they're my heroes.
Yeah.
The people in prison still, they're my heroes. Why? Because they're saying, hey, man, I messed it up.
Yeah.
And this is my junk.
Wow.
And I'm trying to claw out of that. Right?
Yeah.
So I think Brene Brown's done such a gift for our society in putting words around shame and around vulnerability and around.
She really has.
She really
awesome.
has, you know, raised the bar on saying,
for sure.
Listen, you know, you're all in the cheap seats, and the list of people whose opinion matter to me is about 1 by 1 by 1 sheet. It's a tiny little list. And really what it costs us to be vulnerable is worth the cost, because that's connection. That's the only path to connection. But it sounds pretty, but it's not fun.
Yeah.
You know? So my friends that have sat in that and are sitting in that and are on their path of recovery or have really made mistakes and are willing to be honest about it, they're the people I turn to. You know, they're my SOS friends.
Sure.
They're my faith friends. They're the ones who are like, listen, I've been there.
Yeah.
My favorite episode on West Wing, I'm a huge West Wing fan.
Okay.
I've binge watched it way too much. I just told my family, SOS, someone better buy this on DVD, because if Netflix ever takes it off, I'm in trouble. I've rewatched it. I watched it when it originally was on the old school television, when we didn't have Netflix and Amazon Prime, right?
Yeah.
But one of the best episodes is where Leo McGarry, for your fans that know the show, he's a recovering addict, drug addict, alcoholic. And he's helping Josh Lyman, who's gone through some PTSD from a shooting. And Josh has had a total break, and he's a mess. And Leo's called in a therapist, a trauma therapist. And afterwards, he's talking to Josh. And he says to Josh, I love this story. And I just watched this episode the other day because I've started over again. And I cried again. I know exactly what's coming, and I still cry.
You still cry, yeah.
But your podcast is this. So this is why I'm bringing it up.
Sure.
Leo says, hey, there's this guy. He falls in a pit. And, a Catholic priest walks by and throws a script Bible verse down. And then a doctor walks by and throws a prescription down. But then a friend walks by and jumps in the pit. And the guy says, dude, what are you doing down here? Now we're both down here. And the friend turns to him and says, yeah, man, but I've been in the pit. I know the way out.
Wow.
And so Leo turns to Josh and says, I've been in the pit. As long as I'm here, you're here, right? And so we've got to do more of that, jumping in the pit.
Jump in the pit.
So I'm going to say to your listeners, if you've had your tail kicked all over town, if you've attempted suicide and you're still here, if you've recovered and then slipped off the wagon 50 times and you're still trying, if you've been there and you've burned the bridges and you're still here, we need you.
Yeah.
We need you. We need your story. You've been in that pit.
Yeah.
You know the way out. So keep a journal. Start a blog.
Yep.
Whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
Write it down, because there's going to be a day you're going to be walking down the street and you're going to look down and go, oh, wait. Yeah, man, I've been there. I know that way out. And that's the only reason I keep talking, is that I don't have all the answers. I'm willing to have the hard conversation.
Right, yeah.
Because I don't have all the answers. I still have my demons. Sure. But I'm willing to sit down, and I love to hear from other people. That's why I have a number of my books that are compilation stories.
Sure.
And I like that style of, it's a hard project to work on because people think you didn't really write it. You pseudo wrote it.
Right. Right.
And I ghost wrote a lot. I edit a lot. I call it like I'm either the midwife or I'm the surrogate mother for some of those stories.
Exactly. I know what that looks like.
Yeah. But I think compilation stories and podcasts like this are so brilliant because, you may not have my story. Maybe you haven't had lupus or infertility, or you haven't lost someone to suicide or whatever it is. But when we hear each other's story, right, and we hear them in different voices, all of a sudden, I love it when I hear from a reader and they say, hey, listen, I've had your book on my bookshelf for like 2 years. I finally had the courage to read it. I finally opened it. And I read this one chapter. It has nothing to do with what's happening in my life. But for some reason, God spoke to me. Yeah. That's when I'm like, yes, that's the power of a book. That's the power of a podcast.
Power of words, for sure. Wow. You're amazing. I'm serious.
Well, I don't know.
And I mean, what I mean by that too is, just you are, we all have our flaws, and you're open again. I told you in the very beginning, she's very real, and we're getting it. And I think that's why people really love and gravitate towards you. And I feel that. And I feel really blessed to hear this right now, me personally.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.
Well, and I think, you're in the trenches and I'm trying to be in the trenches, but we've got to have the coaches that help. Like, you inspire me, and I love the idea of pondering on who do I turn to and who inspires me. I host a show called The Middle, and I invite guests on there, and then I sometimes do solo messages. Because I try to share some of these stories that I've gone through. I don't have the answers, but I invite people on the yellow couch. We have a yellow couch on the set because oftentimes we're living the middle of a story. There's not the end.
There's not the end, right.
There's not a little bow, like there's not a little, some of these stories are chronic. This is long term. Like lupus for me, some people look at me and go, what? You don't have...
Yeah.
Okay, well, some of my symptoms, you can see the arthritis in my hands. Sometimes you can see my hair falling out. Other than that, you can't see my heart condition. You can't see the fatigue. You can't, right? And I like to say everyone's got lupus. Robin Williams died the day we placed Meg's headstone.
Oh, wow, really?
And I felt like for a moment the whole world had suicide grief.
Wow.
The whole world was like, wait, what? The funniest, most creative, talented artist, I think, in our time.
Oh, yeah, I agree. He's one of my favorite people
Patch Adams,
ever.
Hook, what?
Yes.
I mean, the list is, right? He's gone, right? He didn't think we were better with him? What? Now, we've come to find out he had some brain stuff going on.
That gets me every time, by the way, when you say, well, you thought you weren't better with, we weren't better with you?
Right. And
that hits me hard.
Right, because I think the reality is, Todd, is that there's not one of us walking around that there isn't a pain, a story. I had a really negative review for one of my books, and it was for You Are More Than Enough, You Are Magnificent. this reviewer was pretty harsh with me. And she said, well, listen, if Ganel-Lyn feels like she's insecure, then there's no hope for me. She's done this and this and this, and she's got these shows and this family and da-da-da. And all the work I do to try to be authentic. So the greatest compliment you can give me is that I'm authentic, because that's really what I try to be.
For sure.
I don't try to be in victim. Right. But that's a balance. I've got to celebrate the things in my life. I have a lot to celebrate. Right.
Yeah.
But I also try to say, hey, it's not perfect. Anyway, she was saying, this reviewer was she, not a he. But she said, then there's no hope for us. If she feels insecure, then what? I'm thinking, are you kidding? I know some of the most famous, accomplished.
Yeah.
So do you, Todd.
Yeah, absolutely.
You treat them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
On the outside, Hollywood is filled with stories of the most accomplished, the biggest homes, the peak of achievement.
Yeah.
And some of those people are the most insecure.
Yeah.
So I don't know why this reviewer thought that once you check this box and this box and this box, then you're home free.
Yeah, you're all of a sudden perfect.
You're all of a sudden perfect.
Yeah.
Because guess what? I still have family relationships that aren't working.
Yeah.
Todd, they're not. They're a mess. You know?
Yeah.
And I feel like I have some skills. I've worked really hard. I have an education.
Sure.
I do a lot of research. I have a lot of conversations, and it's hard when I feel like I can help strangers and I can't help people closest to me sometimes. Right?
Yeah, that's tough.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And I'm going to say that's the conversation we need to keep having, is that you don't know anyone's pain unless you are willing to sit with them.
Wow.
And to me, the most inspiring people, I think Brene is one of those people that she's been willing to teach from that place of vulnerability.
Yeah.
She's been able to say, hey, the day after she gave her TED Talk that reached billions at this point, right? She didn't get out of bed and stop eating peanut butter out of the jar for like 2 weeks, right? The vulnerability it takes for us to show up. And maybe you're not a podcaster. Maybe you're not a speaker.
Right, sure.
Maybe you're not an author. But you're creating in some space in your life, and that opens you up.
Yeah.
I mean, I often say the heroes for me are the moms of the ADD kids that are trying to do reading homework.
Yeah, and we don't hear about them.
No.
We never hear about it.
No.
You know?
I mean, I try to invite them on some of my shows.
And there's no one there to applaud them.
And no one's
or
there
anything.
to put them on the front of a magazine.
Yeah. They are the real hero. I mean, I love that you say that, because there's so many people behind the scenes.
Yeah.
They're the heroes, but we never talk about them. You never hear about them on the news.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I know my mom's going to listen to this because she listens to everything I put out.
Same with my mom, by the way.
Thank goodness for moms.
Thank goodness for moms.
So, Mom, if you're listening to this, because she still fights her demons and it gets bad. She's gone through some really bad times. So, you know, COVID has been really hard. My stepdad has cancer. So they've had to socially distance, and
they got to be really careful.
her normal connections and all the things, right? Anyways, I was talking to her the other day. And she gets tired. She's in her 70s, and she's been fighting some of these demons a long time. She's gone to the therapist. She's taken the supplement. She's taken the medicine. She's done all the things in the toolbox.
Everything, yeah.
You know, there's a different story of a 15-year-old that I'm talking to that says, I want to die, than a 70-year-old woman who's tried.
Yeah.
I say to the 15-year-old, your frontal cortex hasn't fully developed.
Yeah, you got to
The end of your story hasn't even started. No, I promise. If I thought my life was what junior high and high school was, I would have been in sore trouble, right? So I say to them, wait, your story is still to come. Your learning disability, your addiction, your depression, anxiety, maybe your gift to the world. Hold on. But to my mama, who's tired, right? She's one of my biggest heroes, and it wasn't easy. She'll be the first to say she wasn't an easy mom to have, right? And that she made a lot of mistakes. But one of the things I always love about is that she has a place in her heart of empathy and forgiveness and acceptance that comes because she's very aware of where she flaws, where her flaws are and where her mistakes have been.
Sure.
And she's my biggest fan, you know, and she's there on the hard days. I called her a couple of weeks ago with a heartbreak, and I just said, I don't care if I'm almost 50. I just need to cry to my mom.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure.
And I need my mom to tell me that I'm the best and I'm the greatest. And maybe you don't have that kind of relationship with your mom, but if you're listening to this and you think you've burned every bridge and you've made every mistake and that, you've messed up as a parent, I think that's the worst grief.
For sure.
I mean, that's my worst shame storm right there.
Same here.
I get to write about it in books and talk about it and keep processing it, right? But I would just say my life would never be better without my mom.
Yeah.
She has made mistakes, but I'm glad she's stuck around for the good days and the bad days. And the celebrations that still can happen, the still showing up, the still sticking with us, part of the story that I believe in miracles, and I believe there's a million to still come, and they look like they're slow, right? They look like they're never going to happen, and that those relationships are never going to heal. And I think we've mentioned the Other Side Academy. I love what principles they teach there. Oh man, of complete.
It's amazing. They're right there. There's the list right there.
That's literally by my back door too. The same picture we're looking at here. Their sense of humility and accountability and forgiveness. I always say, man, I wish everyone could go to prison so they could go to the Other Side Academy, so they could go through the program, so they could learn how to what they call playing games, right? Yes. Where they sit down and they take responsibility. That's it. And we don't know how that looks all the time. We don't know what that looks like all the time. Yeah. But I always say to people, what you may be wanting to write both of us right now and say, well, I have a loved one that's struggling. What would your advice be? I would say, listen, you can't save. You can invite, you can influence, and you can love. Yeah. Because if you're a family member of someone that's got mental health and addiction, you're burnt. Yeah. You're burnt.
You're fried.
Yep. Totally. So it's time to bring in the troops to help out.
Bring in the troops to help, for sure.
Number 2, I would say you can invite and influence, but you've got to have the boundary. Yeah. My mom, the greatest thing she did right before Meg took her life is that she got clear that she had done everything for Meg. Yep. Or else she would have been right behind her.
Exactly.
Literally months before, or else we would have lost 2. Yeah. And she had to come to terms with the fact that there was some codependency there, right? And that she had done everything, and that she had loved Meg the best she could love Meg, and got Meg the best help she could get Meg. Yeah. And then I would say finally, especially to your younger listeners, is that, oh man, there's so much to come. We need your story. We need your set of skills and your broken handle. For sure. That's the beautiful part of you. That's where grace is entering, right?
We're all part of the same equation. Yeah. Right?
And when one loses, we're all lost.
We all lose.
Yeah, we really do. I think there's not a day that goes by, Todd, that I don't get a message from someone that's lost someone else in their community. Man. And then there's that delicate balance of like, do we celebrate the suicide by talking about it in our schools and in our churches and in our workplace? And I say that's kind of crazy for me to talk about it in that way. I don't love obituaries that eliminate suicide as the cause or addiction as the cause, because that's the human part of the story.
Part of the story. Yeah. Wow.
And the people usually closest know, and then we've got to have a different approach to that grief, because suicide grief is a what if grief. Yeah. I've spent a lot of nights replaying, what more could I have? Because I had been in the pit with her, and we had climbed out. So I had a lot of stories of the climbing out. Yeah. And so why not this time?
Why not? Yeah.
She had a great therapist. Meg had the greatest therapist. She had a great bishop, Mormon bishop, right? And he met with her every week for 3 years. She was back in college. She was serving in her community. She had good friends and family, and she got tired. Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you're tired, I would just say, find one more way to turn the light up today. Just one way. Yeah. Sometimes for me, that's a Will Ferrell movie. Yeah. Elf. Right?
Oh, my kids love Elf. Like that is, they'd watch that all year round.
I do, seriously. Todd. I love your kids awesome. Already, because my family's like, why is it July and we're listening to Christmas music and watching Elf? And I'm like, kids. Listen, it got dark today, so we're turning up the light.
Yeah, we're turning up the light.
That doesn't solve every problem. I'm not saying.
I love that analogy. Yeah. Turn up the light a little bit, even if it's just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Yep. For me, it is a good Diet Coke and Christmas music. That gets me through a lot of dark days, and then awesome. And then I can see when I start to isolate, right? Like you started out this whole conversation with connection. Yeah. Even my SOS friends, I would say think of your 5 SOS friends, because you'll talk yourself out of the first 3. You'll say, oh, well, Todd's too busy. Yeah. Gina's just had surgery. Yep. I'm literally saying real friends' names here.
Yeah.
You know, Shauna's back to school teacher, so
Yeah.
she's stressed, and that leaves you 2. Then you'll call one, they won't answer, and then you'll text the last one.
Yeah.
Because we all need, and I would say to your listeners, think of those 5 right now,
Yeah.
and text them. Say, I was just listening to this lady. She's got a really weird name.
Yeah.
Really weird name. I do not know how to say her name. It sounds like she's gay, but she's not gay.
You want to hear a funny story? This is, you can ask my wife this. The whole week,
You've been
I've
practicing.
been practicing
You did so good, Todd.
how to say your name.
It's
I'm
a
not
hard
kidding
name.
you. And my wife kept going, that's not how she says it. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I better listen to it one more time. And then I'm like, okay. And sure enough, as soon as I say, how do you say your name?
I know all my gay friends say, just tell people you're an ally because it sounds like you should be gay. Ganel-Lyn, and it was my great grandma's name was Ganel. My mom's middle name is Ganel, and then my mom added a hyphen and a Lyn.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mom. That is the most complicated name.
Yeah.
It's got a hyphen. It's got grammar in it.
It's a good talking point.
It
right?
is. It breaks
the ice.
It does, but it's always the thing. People are so nervous if they haven't. If I go on a TV show, I go up to the producer and say, "Do you want to practice?" And they're sweating.
Flaws.
Yes.
My flaws. I'm not kidding you. I was anxious
Stressed.
about your name.
You should have just texted
the whole week. I'm like, how do I say her
And
freaking
listen.
name? And I list. You would laugh. I swear, if there was a video in here, I'm watching your Good Things Utah interview, and as Nisha is introducing you, I went bam.
Bam.
I went back and forth. I swear to you, 20 times. I think I've got it, and I'd be over here, Ganel-Lyn, and I would say it out loud. I'm not kidding you.
So
that was my practice.
Full disclosure here, Todd. I always feel bad for the other person if they say it wrong. I don't feel bad for me.
Okay.
I always am like, do you need to go to therapy? I'll pay for the session for you because I
I
can
might
tell
need
you feel
some.
so
Yeah.
bad, and I'm not embarrassed about it. Listen, when I needed a YouTube channel, people go, how do I find you? I said, listen, Google even knows who you're talking about. Just start typing it, and Google's like, oh, it's her.
We
that
know who
weird
that is.
name
There it is.
lady. Yeah. So you can find me on all the platforms. Because no one has my name. That's the only good reason to have it.
That's good, though.
Junior high, it was
That's good.
horrible.
Sets you apart.
Yeah, whatever. At the time, I was like,
Yeah.
Mom. And then don't tell your kids what you were going to name them. Do you know what I was supposed to be named?
What?
Danielle. Because my dad's name's Danielle. Danielle.
Oh.
All the cute girls were named Danielle.
Yeah.
Don't tell your kid that. Don't tell your kid that you were going to have the cool.
Because then you go, I wanted that name.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, Ganel-Lyn, it's fine. I own it now. It's fine. But it almost didn't allow us to get married, my husband and I, because he couldn't say it. And he wanted to ask me out. That is a true story,
awesome.
Todd.
Oh my gosh.
He was like,
That's awesome.
He was like, in college, our apartment complexes by each other, and he didn't know how to say my name, so he didn't ask me out for like 7 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, it almost ruined everything.
That's funny.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
anyways, I would just say to anyone listening, if you say it wrong, I am not going to be offended.
Not going to be offended. Well, that's
my
awesome.
nail people just call me, they speak Vietnamese, and I love them so much.
Yeah.
Which Vietnamese to me is the most complicated language ever. It's very
Sure.
tonal.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, wait, you just said 3 different words. They all sounded the same to me, right? They can't say my name, so they call me G. So if you ever see me on the street, please don't avoid me. Just come up and say, hey, what up, G? And I'll be like, hey. Because that's what my nail people call me is G.
No, you're awesome. Well, you know what? You're so easy to talk to. Thank you.
Well, you're easy to talk to too.
I hope
Thank
so,
you.
but
And thank you for your emoting and crying with me. And your viewers can't see on a podcast what's going on.
I'm over here.
No, it's the same. It's the
seriously.
same. To me, it's so healing.
Yeah.
It's.
No, I feel so blessed to be able to sit in this chair and listen to your amazing story and everyone who sat here before you. And I just want to thank you for just being you and being vulnerable today. You shared some really powerful things that hit me hard. I can't wait to share this with all my clients. And I want everyone to share it listen to it, obviously, and share it to everyone that you know. Because we all need to hear this today, honestly.
Every day, right?
Every day. And so one of the questions I want to ask you is if people want to reach out to you who are listening to this, they want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
They want to, be able to get, all the many books that you do or tap into your podcasts and your blogs and all that stuff you do. What's the best way for them to do that?
So I have a website that's just my name, no hyphen in it. Just no hyphen.
Spell it out for us.
Ganellyn. So Ganel-Lyn.com.
Okay.
And I'm on YouTube. And I'm on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook. My Facebook friend limit has been reached.
You've hit it.
I know, and I feel bad about that. And the other day I sent messages to the 400 friend requests because I have a separate page that's just my first name that doesn't have a limit.
Gotcha.
And I guess the message sounded a little funny. I said, I've hit my friend limit. So
yeah, so stay away.
I didn't mean I don't want new friends in real life. It means Facebook won't let me add anymore. So you can message me there. Instagram, I know, allows for private messaging as well. And I get those. And oftentimes, you know, I think it's just hearing permission to reach out that is helpful. Amazon has all of my books, but my website has links to various places that you can buy.
Awesome.
And I'm still a fan of the old school book. You know, I know people like Audible and digital book, but
I'm a book guy.
I
like highlighting. I like writing a note on the side.
And the other
it makes me remember it more.
Right. And the other thing I would say is I started writing the first book not knowing there would be 7.
Right.
Because I wanted what was in that book. I needed it for when I had been going through similar things. I wish someone had handed me that. And I think there's something about a book that is like, you can't fix a divorce for someone. You can't fix a miscarriage or the death of a child or a husband that has bipolar. But you can hand a book to someone and they can sit it on their shelf. And when they're ready
for it,
they get to have a best friend.
They get to do it.
The greatest compliment my readers give me is when they write and say, it feels like your books are my best friends. I say, praise God for that.
Yeah, that's what
And God really is my boss. He's my why. If I disappear, it's because he told me I'm done. And I really see what I do as a mission.
Sure.
There's a lot of great speakers and authors and practitioners and commentators and YouTubers out there. But I definitely see this as a mission, and I feel like my sister's part of my mission. She's my companion, and she's cheering me on.
Amazing.
And so if ever I disappear, it's not because I went to an island and am hiding from people. It's just that God said you're done. And so for now, I'll keep showing up and adding whatever I can. So thanks for letting me be here today.
No, absolutely.
And this connecting.
For sure.
In person.
I know.
It's so nice. I won't take it for granted.
I know.
If anyone in the universe is listening, I cleaned out the spice rack in my kitchen. I thought that would signal to the universe no more COVID. Like I did it.
Yeah.
I donated books because my bookshelf was getting too full. I thought that would signal the COVID could be over. It didn't. You know, when you wash your car and then it rains, I figured there's got to be something in the universe we've got to do.
Yeah.
So honestly, in seriousness, though, I think, what is it that I've learned? I learned where I still needed to work on some stuff. I learned where I was distracting. I learned what I was taking for granted. I'm a hugger. If you ever see me, I probably will hug you.
Yeah, I'm a hugger too. So I get it.
And that's the worst part of speaking in the prisons. You can't touch.
Can't hug.
Yeah, that's the only reason I don't love to.
What's funny though, when I spoke at the prison, guys were coming up shaking my hand, and I had a guy going, "Hey, can I give you a hug?" And I said, "Sure."
Oh, listen.
And the guy hugged me, and the guard kind of looked, and I said, "Hey, I said he could."
Oh,
they were
I'm
cool
going to ask. Okay, next time.
And it was anyway, that's a whole nother story. It's not about me, but anyway.
Yeah. No, you can't.
I hear you.
No, the last prison, I was supposed to do it a few weeks ago and it got canceled because of COVID. But the last time I was there, an inmate had just lost his son to suicide.
Oh, wow.
And he sat in the corner and sobbed. And I did a Q&A and he raised his hand. And I had been warned that had just happened. And he asked, what if you can't get over? And I'm just feeling like one of your listeners needs to know this. This is a unique grief. Yeah. And I would just say, like I've already said it multiple times, you can invite, you can influence, but you have permission to have boundaries.
Yeah.
The most loving thing we can do in relationships is to say no sometimes.
Yeah. Yep.
And I've learned that. I've learned boundaries are so loving, but they're hard.
Yes.
And I think there's all these resources floating out there and we just want our loved ones. I mean, I remember literally 3 weeks before Meg died, I remember thinking, oh, should I send her this? Whatever, fill in the gap, you know? And I didn't. I felt restrained in doing it. And it took me a good year to say, oh, you know, should I?
Yeah.
And then one day I ran into someone that had used that exact tool and she was a mess.
Wow.
And I felt like it was God's way of saying, see, you know, there's that's still the little voice in me, the 7-year-old that's still trying to heal, that fixing,
For
that
sure.
saving,
Yeah.
that I'm always working on, right?
Yeah.
Like that I can do my part, but I have to surrender the result.
Right.
You know?
No, awesome. Well, this was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Todd.
For being here. You're amazing. And I'm so grateful that we finally got to meet in person.
Yes.
And I can't wait for people to hear this. And I know now that you're hearing me talk right now, you've obviously listened to this. I know you've been inspired. Please share this with people you know who are struggling with, no matter what it is, because they need to hear this message. And like you said, we need to hear it every day. I love you guys. I love my listeners. Thank you so much for all your support and believing in me. I couldn't do it without you guys. Sorry. Didn't mean to get emotional there, but I'm just grateful. I can't believe how this has taken off. And I'm just grateful for people like you. I just don't know what else to say. I feel so blessed. And I want you guys to know that I love you. And I can't wait to have you guys hear this. And I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Till next time. Thank you.